It's what I do. And I often argue that I'm actually not a radio presenter.
Welcome to the Property Talk Show, proudly brought to you by Ep2 Property Development on the Hustlers Corner platform. I'm very excited because we will be speaking to people who own real estate, who own property, who do invest in the space, and people who are a little bit knowledgeable about it, and some who are very knowledgeable about it. I'm less knowledgeable, but I'm learning. I'm enjoying the journey. It's been incredible. It's been amazing. Being a new investor in the space is totally incredible. Now, I'm sitting with somebody that I regard as a grootman, but is somebody who's also helped put me on in the industry. I've given him his flowers. I continue to give him flowers. Every time when I see him, I always just get these butterflies. Not easy for me to get starstruck, but every time I see him, I still get starstruck. In 2023, ladies and gentlemen, he needs no introduction. I don't have to read a long intro, but this is DJ Fresh.
What's up, my dude? Oh, Grant.
Otherwise,
No, I'm good, brother, man. I'm good.
thank you once again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
For making it. I appreciate it.
No, it's good to be here.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I think the first thing I'd like to start with is the WAW, the podcast.
Yes, sir.
The decision to start the podcast, and what is the podcast about? For those who don't know, DJ Fresh just launched his brand new podcast, which is called WAW, What a Week. He'll tell us a little bit more about it. It drops every Friday. And I think this past Friday, he just dropped his third, if not his fourth episode.
No. So, in fact, first things first. So, we drop on a Friday at 3 p.m. and then Saturday morning at 8. Saturday morning at 8, we drop Politics, the politics segment. Because the politics segment is standalone, basically. So, as much as we've done 3 weeks, we're actually at episode 7 now. So we drop 2 episodes a week.
2 a week.
Yes, sir. So one on Friday, which deals with other stuff for the week. Then we do an interview segment, and then we also do a celebrity segment. So yeah. But episode 7, why did you do it? Why not? I think it was more because I needed to scratch my mic itch, but also because there was demand. Like, there was huge demand. Every time I'd post something, people would tell me, no, I'm happy you're in Ibiza, Spain, but when are you back on radio? When are you doing a podcast? So you could never post anything without people saying, but. So after Africa Podcast Network, in fact, John called me February 2022 and said, my man, I got a proposal, we need you to do a podcast. And I took a year to respond. But I believe things happen at the time they're meant to happen. Had we done the podcast February last year, I doubt it would be the same thing we're doing right now. So I'm glad it took a year to happen. But we were up and going, and the numbers are crazy. I think our first episode is just over 100,000 views.
I've never seen or heard of anyone that has dropped their first episode and it does over 100,000 views.
In fact, when we started, John said to me, I need you to manage your expectations. What I tell everyone with the podcast is expect nothing, because often you get nothing. But the secret is don't give up. The secret is don't feel I'm digging, I'm not getting there. It's like if you're digging for any jewelry or any mineral. Often you're digging for 100 days before you even strike whatever you need to strike. So he said I need to think of it like that you're prospecting all the time. Expect nothing. The time you hit oil or gold or diamonds, it'll be worth it.
I totally agree as
Yes,
well.
sir.
I mean, you
Yes,
can
sir.
see MacG.
Yes.
You can see some of the biggest podcasts all over the world. And for me, when they talk about the likes of your Joe Rogans in the
Yes.
space, for us in South Africa, you are our Joe Rogan of radio.
Sure,
And I'm
sure.
glad that finally you've gotten into this digital space.
Thank you very
Maybe
much,
let's talk
man.
about the digital space and
Yes,
its
sir.
current position where it's at and
Oh
the
yes,
future.
I've got a brand new album coming out on the 14th of April.
Yeah, pop, 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 pop.
And-
14th of April is going to be a Friday.
14th of April. One
Nice.
of the songs is called Tiko.
Thank you.
It's called Voices of Hope 2. Enjoy it. It's a labor of love. You know, when you're an unemployed radio DJ, you have time to go into studio. You know.
I know. I'm in studio now. I know.
So yeah, album is out on the 14th of April.
Congratulations on the album. Maybe let's take it there. Let's talk about the album.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about the album.
So we did Voices of Hope 1, which was an EP. That dropped October 20... When was it? It was 2021 is when it dropped. In fact, the reason I did a podcast and chill with Mac G is because we were pushing the EP. I don't just do interviews for the sake of interviews. If I'm doing an interview, you know we're selling something.
Yeah, I know.
Otherwise, why are you wasting an interview?
But also you are also honoring us with your presence.
Absolutely.
You don't just do any interview.
Absolutely. It has to make sense. It has to be worth it. And it has to be someone I respect beyond. And, you know, I respect Mac G's hustle. There was no way I was not going to do the podcast. It was just a matter of when. And unfortunately, because he's a youngster, if he wants you now, he wants you now.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to do it, well, roll. You know what I mean? But I believe do things at the time that are meant to happen. Anyway, so we did Voices of Hope. So I've got a studio. It's called Dombo Shaba Studios. I own it with Shona SA. And
shout out to Shona.
We make
it's dope on the beat.
Yeah, absolutely. We make Afro House literally every day. Every day we are making music. Literally every day. But if you want to make a demo, if you want to do a radio demo, if you want to record ads, our studio is available, Dombo Shaba. Find it on all social media, and we'll hook you up. Yeah, so we did the EP, dropped the EP, and we let her fly. And I was like, listen, we need to do the second Voices of Hope. And we did so much music, it's now an album, not an EP. And I'm excited about it. It's incredible. There's some mad voices on there. We did a song with Mazette. Mazette is a young lady from the Eastern Cape. You know, Mazette walks into the studio, listens to the song, writes nothing. Listens to the song, put on the mic, Mazette records.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Top of the dome.
And then she breaks down and cries.
How?
After that. because she says she sings from her heart about what she feels, what she's been through. And often it's not necessarily a beautiful thing or a beautiful journey to sing about. Or sometimes it's just so cathartic that she has to just cry and let it out. So that's how she works. I think she's a talent and a half. Look out for Mazette, guys. Jeez. But like I said, it just blows my mind that she doesn't write anything.
You're one of the house music pioneers in South Africa.
Yes, sir.
You're one of the people that every album you dropped, even from the beginning, I think it's almost 20 years ago now, if not a little bit longer.
Yes, sir. 25.
I don't know how many hits you have. Because you wouldn't just drop 25, right? You wouldn't just drop one album with like 1 or 2 hits. You'd have like 5 hits, like 7 hits on one album.
You know what? I think the compilation space had its role to play. And I think it was important that we went through that phase of house music because it was making house music accessible to your ordinary guy. I get it when we started at Y, majority of the house we were playing, we're literally playing from record. So it was not available on CD. So there was demand. People are going to record stores. I heard the song on YFM. Is it available? That's how the demand started. And that's how myself, Tim White, Vinny Da Vinci then met and decided that, you know what, let's start Fresh House Flava because there's demand. And Fresh House Flava 1 was platinum before we even dropped the first CD or cassette. And then I think for the next Fresh House Flavors, 2, 3, 4, 5, special edition 6, every single one of them was platinum before it dropped. We'd announced we're dropping Fresh House Flava 4. Pre-sales alone, we platinum. We get a call from CCP, oh, you're platinum, you haven't even dropped yet. That's how much demand there was.
But that's the thing, that's why your first episode on your podcast could be 100,000 views. And you're the only person in this country that does the first episode 100,000 views. You DJ Fresh.
Are you for real?
Yeah.
That's wild.
You DJ Fresh.
I find that hard to believe, but I'll take your word.
I'm telling you, do your research.
Because you're in the space.
I gave you a call to congratulate you because I know the space.
I remember. But yeah, Fresh House Flava was a journey and a half, dude. I think it changed the landscape of house music on the continent. I think it changed the landscape.
In the world.
Possibly in the world.
Because you guys started making the whole world start looking at South Africa.
In fact, I remember the first time I met Nick Holder. Nick Holder did Summer Days. Nick Holder told me about how, because Nick Holder was a one-man operation at the DNA Records. So literally, you'd call DNA, because there was a phone number, a Canadian number on the record. When you call, he says, yeah, DNA Records, hello. It's like, hi, could I please speak to someone in shipping? Then you say, hold on. And then he'd answer it as himself. It's like, hi, shipping, hello. Yeah. And Nick says, when we dropped Fresh House Flava 4, the demand for Summer Days was so insane, he couldn't keep up. He couldn't keep up. I think it was one of the first records in the country to sell over 10,000 copies.
It's still big till today. Wherever you drop it, people go insane.
In fact, when YFM turned 3, the YFM 3rd birthday bash, Louis Vega was here.
I remember very well.
And I remember I played it. And Louis Vega came up to me and was like, what on earth is this? And I told him what it is, and I gave it to him. So Louis Vega's Summer Days copy that he plays off vinyl is my copy.
Wow.
That he took. And I gave it to him. And then he told me that he was going to play in Southport in England the following weekend. So he's like, why don't you come with me? So myself, Vinny, Fat Joe, we spoke to Dirk. Dirk Hartford was our managing director at YFM. We told him, yo, Dirk, Louis has invited us over to England. Dirk was cool.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry, bro, we'll pay for the tickets. So YFM paid for tickets. Because he said we were representing the station and the culture, so why should we pay for our own tickets? So Louis Vega takes care of accommodation. We're staying in Manchester, and YFM takes care of our tickets. So as I'm driving to the airport to fly to England, Glory, Glory was starting to bubble.
Glory, Glory.
It was starting to bubble nyana under. It was November 2000. Glory, Glory starting to bubble nyana under, and the other records that were starting to pick up. So I called Tim White. I was like, yo, Tim, I know we dropped Fresh House Flava in June 2000, but there are all these songs here, and December is coming, and there's no other compilation that's out right now. Are we going to waste these records? You know, when I landed in Heathrow Friday morning from our flight, Tim had cleared all the tracks for Fresh House Flava Special Edition, and we were gold in pre-sales. That's how wild that space was.
Wow.
Yeah. That's how wild that space was.
You guys changed the game, and I always say to youngsters who don't know, shout outs to Coffee Man for taking this thing to another level.
Jeez.
But before
Yes,
Coffee,
hold up.
you guys...
Are we going to Madison Square Garden?
We have to.
Okay,
Coffee knows. I already gave him a call. I'm like, bro, I'm rolling with you. You already know.
We'll see you at Madison Square Garden.
On his first Coachella invite. Like, bro, and I was with him. This man got me meeting about Jamiroquai backstage. This man got me meeting all sorts of people.
Nati is a card you can play and open any door.
Amazing, brother.
Any door.
Shout outs to Nati, man.
Yes, sir.
Siyazwakala. Madison Square Garden, we're coming. You guys started the Ibiza trips. I even remember the ad on YFM. There was a part where you were saying, Ibiza, not Ibiza.
Hey, I think the ad was, oh, we're going to Ibiza. Like, no, it's Ibiza.
Not Ibiza.
In fact, let me actually correct that. The first DJ I knew was making trips to Ibiza at the time was actually DJ Pepsi. Already in 99, 2000, Pepsi was making those trips.
I didn't know.
And then there was the Smirnoff DJ Knockout DJ contest. So Tira won in 2000.
That. When he came over to Joburg to represent KZN.
Yes. So that was the first one. And Tira won, and he traveled alone to Ibiza. So the second Smirnoff DJ Knockout had the heavyweights and the lightweights. So Tira obviously was in the lightweights section, and I was one of the judges. I can't remember who else was judging. And Tira was up against Monde, I think, and Iggy Smalls. I can't remember who else.
Yeah.
And I can't remember.
Rest in peace to Monde and Iggy.
Absolutely. I don't remember who else from Pretoria was. And Tira, hands down, like buried them, like hands down. But you could tell the other judges are trying to say, are we sure?
Yeah.
You know, because of the Josie bias. I refuse. I'm like, no, guys, you know Tira won this thing.
Yeah.
So let's not try to be funny. And I remember I won the heavyweights. My set, I remember, went from 45s to Kwaito to house. Seamless transitions.
Yeah.
Seamless transitions.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with the DJ competition. You must prepare. And unfortunately, with house music, guys walk in and think, I'll just make. No, you must prepare. Any performance, you prepare. And that's how you win. In fact, with anything that you do, if you're not prepared, it's a problem. If you're going to come to a podcast unprepared, why should you expect to win or to deliver anything that is worth people spending time on, spending money on data for? And I preach that lesson all the time, that I don't care how good you are at what, always be prepared. And always prepare before whatever it is you need to do.
The Property Talk Show is proudly brought to you by Ep2 Property Development. They've got opportunities in North Riding. They've got opportunities in Randfontein. There's a click the link in the description. It'll take you to the Property Talk Show's own YouTube channel, its own platform. Subscribe there, become a family member there, and you can also get in touch with them on their Facebook platforms and whatever it is, so you guys can go and find out more property investment opportunities with them. And then came the Miami Music Conference trips that you guys initiated and started back then. That was
yes.
YFM that made that cool.
In fact, the first time we did Miami Music Conference, it was 2001.
I think it was DJU, right?
It was myself, Vinny, Christos, Oskido,
Greg.
Sammy T. No, Greg didn't join us on this one.
Oh, he didn't join, okay.
There were 5 of us. We shared one hotel room. That's how that's how unprepared we were.
Yeah.
We just knew, we're going to Miami, we'll see when we get there. And the first night, because we were so unprepared, we shared one hotel room. 5 of us. By the second night, I think we'd managed to get a second room. So we had 2 rooms between the 5 of us. But we went there to learn, we went there to network. And through the learning, through the networking, within 10 years, we're throwing our own parties in Miami. I mean, at the height of the parties myself and Euphonic were throwing, on the deep house scene, the top 3 parties included our party, because that's how much impact we made on that scene. And that's how much impact South African DJs were making on that scene, in terms of deep house music. And for me, that's when I realized that the writing is on the wall. South Africa is about to be in her own lane. I mean, our first party, we had Black Coffee on. And Black Coffee had literally just dropped Superman.
Superman.
No, it had literally just dropped.
Apparently, Superman is the track that opened up a lot of international opportunities for him.
You have no idea, bruh. Like I said, it had literally just dropped, and Nati is on our lineup. And it's a party we're throwing, myself, Temba, and Lerato Maunatlala. Lerato Maunatlala.
Yeah, Lerato very well. Yeah.
Lerato was...
Kabelo's sister. Shout out to Kabza Autiaka.
Absolutely. And, we didn't know what to expect for that party. Because we thought, it's going to be a nice party. There's a lot of South Africans in Miami who work in Boca. Who work at some of these resorts. Some of them.
Shout out to all of you guys. I just played for you guys a few months ago. You showed me so much love. Full house. They always have got love for us.
Yeah. I think Iggy was there also the other week.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we were anticipating we're going to get a lot of South Africans, a lot of homesick Southern Africans. So we're at the door, they were nervous, because it's our first party in Miami. Like, we don't know what to expect. I see a Japanese dude walk in. Like, okay. I see people that you can see are not South African or are not African. I was like, oh, okay. So by the time Nati is playing, all of these kids are standing in front watching him play. That's when I realized that Nati is about to have a cult following. Just from our little flyer nyana, it's the first time South Africans are throwing a party like that, which is only South Africans on the lineup party. Because previous parties would be masters at work throw a party. We get a small dance floor there on the corner. You know what I mean? And shout out to Louis and Kenny, because they put us on. I mean, they do a masters at work party. Like it was one of the most subscribed to parties in Miami. And they'd give us a small dance floor. So VIP would be us. But the fact that they had the vision to say, we need to give these kids an opportunity to also rock Miami, for me was like, geez, that's what we stand for. So to see someone else do that for you, it's almost like, okay, it's worth it then. I put people on, someone else is putting me on. So your blessings are coming back as you give to other people. Other people are actually returning the energy. So to see so many kids there, and you can see they're here for Black Coffee. He's not a big name yet, but there's all these kids here for Black Coffee. And they're not African. That's when I realized that there's a cult starting here. There's going to be a problem here. You know what I mean? And just look at Nati now. But it all started humbly all those years back.
DJU.
Yes, sir.
Who was DJU and what was that
Okay.
outfit for? What did it represent?
So initially, the way we started DJU, it was actually supposed to be a DJ union because we were sick and tired of promoters and clubs and having, like, I'd want to book Sboo. Sboo will say, I want $100. They go to Fresh says, oh, I'll take 10. So there was a lot of that. There's still a lot of that in the industry.
Today.
Guys will pay for a case of beer.
Yeah.
So we actually wanted to start. No, for real.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's like a rider. And guys are paying for the rider. And that's, anyway. So the initial meeting for DJU was to start a DJ union so that we can unionize and at the very least have bargaining power. And the initial meeting was myself, Vinny, Christos, Oskido, Greg Maloka, I think Glenn Lewis, and Ganyani. Because we were the most busy on the circuit at the time. Yes, we were the most busy on the circuit. In fact, we were so busy it was wild back at the time.
You're still busy now, all of you.
Do you know that 2022 was my busiest bookings year in the history of my career?
Wow.
Yeah, last year. It was incredible.
And this is when you're not on radio.
And in fact, it said to me that if you build a solid enough brand, whether or not you're on radio doesn't matter. And that's what you need to aim to do. Build a brand that promoters know they can bank on. If you're not bankable, they're not going to book you. If as a promoter or as an establishment, I don't see I'm going to get a return on investment hiring you, I'm not going to hire you. So be bankable. Be memorable, have impact when you do what you do, and you'll get return business. It works in anything. It works in anything.
That's why you dropped the first episode and it's 100,000 views.
In fact, there's a saying, customer satisfaction is one of the most underrated business plans on the planet. If people are satisfied, trust me, you will flip and fly. But anyway, so we have this meeting about DJU, and the next meeting, Glenn didn't show up. The next meeting, I think, increasingly guys were just falling away. Then eventually it was just myself, Vinny, Christos, Oskido, and Greg. So we decided that, okay, we're not going to do a union because guys want to do their own thing, but we want to keep the name anyway and call it rather DJs Unite. And that's how DJU was formed.
Dope.
But the wild thing about DJU is, when I look back at it, is I'm going into partnership with guys I looked up to. When I was 18, 19, I was the biggest fan of Vinny, Christos, and Oskido. When I was 18, 19. I met all of them at the same time, but they were all doing their own things. But I was such a huge fan that I'd go out of my way to attend the events. So Vinny was a resident at High Point Hillbrow in 93, 94. He was a hip-hop DJ. Vinny was a hip-hop DJ.
I didn't know.
Yeah. Vinny was a hip-hop DJ, my guy. And I was like, he's one of his biggest fans. Vinny would be playing. I'd be standing next to him watching. Sometimes I'd request a song. And he was always nice to me. Like, he was always the nicest guy. Even Christos. When Christos was literally becoming huge on the scene, because now there's this white boy playing our music. He used to do Sundays at Gemini, Kopitori.
Kopitori, yeah.
And I was at law school, Botswana. We would literally ask my dad for the car. I'm going to study at a friend's place. And we'd jump the border. I don't have a license. It's apartheid South Africa. We've stolen the car to go to listen to Christos on a Sunday. 3 in the morning, we get back on the road, cross the border at 6. I park the car, tell my dad, thanks, we studied well. Meantime, I'm failing. But such was my passion for wanting to see these guys in action. And it was, and I often say, your mentor does not even have to know you. People can mentor you by you merely observing how do they do this thing, how do they treat people, how do they operate their business. how do they carry themselves on social media. So Vinny and Christos mentored me before I even knew them, just from me observing them. And Oskido, he put me on like 92, 93. All of a sudden, I'm now doing business with these guys. For me, it was wild. For me, it's still wild even now. That, and in fact, from my experience with these guys, I came up with a saying that they must inspire you so much one day you work with them. That's how much someone must inspire you. That one day they see you as an equal.
They inspired you, Mosquito put you on, then you go on to put me on, you put Proverb on, shout out to Proverb, Idols, you put Euphonic, and let's talk about FEU. Euphonic is now an international DJ.
Absolutely. So, like I said to you...
And just to mention a few,
yes.
There's a whole lot more people that I've seen with my own eyes.
About 1,000.
You put them on.
About 1,000.
Yeah.
Or more.
And you can even name drop, because you never speak about it, you never do. But you have to sometimes, because youngsters have to know.
Let me tell you why I don't make a song and a dance of it. One of the reasons I don't do a song and a dance of it is because I firmly believe my calling is to transform people's lives. My calling is to make a positive impact in people's lives. And because I feel it's my calling, it's not a PR exercise. It's not a PR opportunity. If I get a chance to mention it, I will. But I'm not going to do a press release that, this year I'm sending 5 kids to school. Because it's part of my calling. So it's not a PR thing. You know what I mean? So, the fact that I've put probably almost 2,000 kids through varsity, through my foundation, for me, it's not a big deal. Because it's part of my calling. For someone else, it's, but Grootman, why are you not making a noise about it? Because my calling is not a PR exercise. It's from the heart. That's why I will never make noise about half the people whose lives have transformed, half the people whose lives have become so transformed they're now millionaires or multimillionaires, or they're now putting other people on. That's not why I do it. So that's why it's not, I don't PR the hell out of it.
And thank you for that.
Yes, so no man, dude, it's like I said, it's what I do. And I often argue that I'm actually not a radio presenter. Radio was merely one of the vehicles that God gave me to transform lives. Likewise with DJing. Likewise with all the other work that I do. These are just vehicles. Even the podcast that I do, it's merely a vehicle to transform people's lives, to help people reconsider how maybe they view themselves, or how they view the world, or how they view life. As long as you can just transform one person's life, then your job is done. The other day I got an email from a kid in Pretoria. And he said, where was I playing? Was it a coffee? And no man, 012, at 012. And he's like, tonight I had told myself that I'm ending it all. But from one song that you played, I played a Rex Rabanye Unketsang remix. And he says he was so happy seeing people dancing to that song that he changed his mind about that tonight I'm done. He says he was done. He says he's been suicidal. Just one song changed someone's mind about ending it all. And one thing I think we take for granted when we're especially on the radio is that your average person is probably a song away from wanting to end it all. You don't realize how many lives you save with each song you play, with each positive thing you say. That's why we can't take it for granted, the power we have. We wield a lot of power that we can't take for granted, and that we shouldn't abuse, or that we shouldn't be in denial about our privilege and be reckless with that privilege. I don't know if I'm making sense.
I get it.
Yes. So what was your question again?
No. A little bit earlier I had spoken about so many lives that you've changed, but then a movement sprung out of your union with Euphonic. You guys started FEU.
In fact, so Euphonic, like many other DJs, was that kid that wants to be put on. So he was a resident at Huzu in Midrand. He was working for Aldo.
So Aldo, they were in Midrand after 4 Ways, ne?
So Aldo started in 4 Ways.
Old school Lamborghini outside by the old
the Countach.
The Countach,
Lamborghini Countach, yes.
And then they moved to Midrand. Okay.
So Huzu moved from four ways with that revolving dance floor to four ways. So Euphonic was one of the residents there. And whenever I played, he'd always be in my ear, just about, loving the work that I do. But sometimes Euphonic would steal the car from Benoni, drive to Pretoria to come and listen to me play in Pretoria. So he went through a lot of what I went through, where you steal the car because your favorite DJ is playing somewhere. So he'd literally find me wherever I was playing, just watch me play. Then, as fate would have it, one day, he's a resident at Huzu. So whenever I was playing, he'd make sure that he kicks butt. So he knew how to open to leave the crowd just ready for you. And that's the secret to being an opening DJ. That kick butt, but don't try and overshadow the headliner.
Because them opening DJs, they don't play. They go in, bro.
And in fact, I told the story on Podcast and Chill. Fresh House Flavor 4 party in Klerksdorp.
Yeah.
The guy before me played Fresh House Flavor 4 before I went. Because some residents just don't care.
Yeah. They'll play everything in your bag.
Ah, my man. And
well, back in the day, we used to carry bags.
And because your average vinyl bag takes, 40, 60 records.
Yeah.
If they play half your records.
So you guys hear it, right? All you resident DJs and up-and-coming DJs. Just put it like Euphonic, just enough.
There's a secret to being a resident.
Yeah.
And your people know you. You don't have to try and steal the show. You can still set the tone just right. You can still Scottie Pippen so that the headliner can come and Michael Jordan it. There's nothing wrong with being Scottie Pippen.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong. Everyone has a role to play. Anyway, so myself and Euphonic started like that, and then, he started doing mixes for me at YFM when I was on Breakfast, and then he started doing remixes and bootlegs with Kent. Kent was already a resident on my show. On Breakfast at Y. Kent started being a resident in 2002. And I remember when they did the...
Kent Phonic?
No, there was a remix they did, man.
Oh, you mean the track?
What is that remix? I'd like.
Which I'd like was that?
Who did I'd like, man? That Cape Town group.
The Polytones.
No, man, not the Polytones, man. Hold on, I'll tell you now.
No, let's get it.
Huh? Not Goldfish, man. Not
Goldfish.
Not Goldfish.
Not Goldfish. What track was that?
With, huh? No, man. Who's that Maholwana lady? The vocalist. Freshly Ground.
Oh, Freshly Ground.
Remember? Yeah, remember there was a
There's a house version of it, right?
No, it was a bootleg.
The bootleg.
And these kids, so they do a bootleg, and they come and give me a copy, and we play it on the radio. And then they print vinyls in Zimbabwe.
The record company doesn't know.
It's a bootleg. But it blows up. Yeah. Now the record label is pissed off that, what is this? Who's done this?
Yeah.
I remember Temba calling me, he's like, Ish, we might be in trouble. Please break any CD you might have of the copy. We've deleted every file on our computer. Even if you have a record, please break it. They were terrified.
Yo.
Because obviously, it's a big record label.
Yeah.
It's a big group.
It's a similar case of what Black Coffee did with Simpiwe Dana's D-Ready.
Yeah, but this one, they were youngsters. They were still at UJ studying.
Yeah.
The world is ahead of them. The futures are ahead of them. Now all of a sudden they're in trouble for doing a remix. So we laugh about it all the time. That I think you learn from experiences like that there's a way of doing it. But I think sometimes our labels fail to see the role of a bootleg. I think the mistake they made was to make vinyls and sell them. But bootlegs have a role to play in our industry. In fact, a lot of official remixes started as bootlegs. And they were like, this works. Let's actually get in touch with the bootlegger so that they can make a buck or two and everyone can win. So if you're able to make bootlegs just to put your name out there, do that. Just don't sell the music. Just do it so that you can flex your muscles and flex your talent that, listen, this is what I can do. You know, but I think at the time, I don't know, our record labels were very Goliath about it. That since you're a bad boy, we will show you. You know what I mean? But I think that's slowly waking up to the fact that bootlegs have a role to play on the scene. You know?
Now, back in those days, guys, it was not easy to just come from the, I don't want to call it the black market, but if you're a black entertainer, you're big in the space, crazy because of our history of this country in South Africa, that it was very rare for the white community to party with the black community. Now, you guys, when I say you guys, I'm talking about yourself and Euphonic. Especially you, because you started first, you went to 5.
In fact.
But then at some point, you literally nkalagatat the entire industry. Nkalagatat meaning Mendoza had a very, maybe you'll explain it.
No, in fact, all of that started before FU. Fresh House Flavor 4 was actually, for me, the first crossover album that I saw on the scene. Because after dropping Fresh House Flavor 4, all of a sudden I was getting bookings at clubs in Pretoria. I arrive and it's just white kids. I'm like, eh? What's going on here? And that was the power of music. That was the power of Fresh House Flavor 4. I often tell the story of I was walking at Cresta Mall and there's a young white lady who saw me, came to me, she broke down and cried and told me about how Fresh House Flavor 4 carried her through rehab. That through rehab, she was listening to Fresh House Flavor 4 day in and day out, and that's what kept her positive, and that's what helped her kick a habit. That's when I realized that we've actually created a monster here with Fresh House Flavor. So that crossover appeal started already then. So by the time I got to 5, I was ripe for that. I was ripe for the market. But what people don't understand is, because I carry people like putting you in a box. People like boxing you. That, yeah, we're now darky, so you only play this. So for a lot of people, it was inconceivable that I would move from YFM, a black youth radio station, and go to 5FM, which was perceived as a white youth radio station. But people don't understand that because of my upbringing and my background, that's music I grew up on. I grew up on rock and roll. I grew up on pop music. So for me personally, moving from Y to 5 was not even, I literally fit in. I felt like I was back in primary school, playing with the white kids. I felt like I was back in high school, because that, fortunately, was my upbringing. So in terms of adjusting to music, I didn't need to adjust to anything. I was already a 5FM fan by that time. In fact, I was a Capital FM fan, in fact, Capital Radio. Before I was a Radio 5 fan, I was actually a Capital Radio fan. Capital Radio broadcast out of Durban. So the likes of Oscar Renzi, Steve Bishop, Just Ice worked at Capital, Kenny Maestri worked at Capital. So this is before 94. So I remember 1988 on medium wave, I tuned into Capital Radio because they played some of the most insane music, like before Metro. Was even a big thing. For me, it was Capital, and then Bob, and then Metro.
Oh, Bob was insane.
Absolutely.
That era was insane.
Exactly. So because I grew up listening to pop music, to rock music, you know, I went to a primary school that had kids from 45 countries. I went to a high school with kids from 45 countries. So I grew up in that music. So even in high school, because I was a school DJ in my high school, you know, you'd play at the school disco. It was called a school disco at the time. Is it a social now?
Yeah, I think you guys call it social.
It's social, you know?
Social, okay.
What do you kids call it? Literally, you would go from playing a Brenda Fassie song, because Brenda was huge, to playing a UB40 song, because UB40 were huge, to playing John Bon Jovi, to playing U2. Then you'd play LL Cool J, I Need Love, because that was the big rap ballad at the time. So our school discos was literally almost like a 5FM playlist, the best of everything. So moving to 5 for me was not even a thing.
But then on 5, Dino Bravo,
Yeah.
which you had already put on from YFM, Euphonic, DJ Kent, those afternoon mixes, bro.
I know.
Kent, bro.
Yeah.
Yo!
Let me tell you about me. I'm very big on always have the same team. So if I've worked with you from day one, until you give me a reason not to want to work with you. It doesn't matter where I go. I'll take you with me. So when I was moving from Y to 5, I remember Euphonic asking me, my man, are you sure? In fact, him and Kent called me at the same time. So, are you sure?
Sure. I remember very well.
And I was like, guys.
I remember the farewell, it was myself, you, and Thomas.
Yeah.
The YFM farewell, when you were going to 5.
Yeah.
The party was insane also. I think it was in Bryanston somewhere, or Randburg somewhere.
It was at ESP in Randburg.
Yeah. Yes, that was insane.
So they were like, my man, are you sure we shouldn't stay here at Y? I was like, no, let's go. And I think it changed the complexion of 5FM in terms of, one, what the traditional 5FM market were generally exposed to, but also because we brought a lot of us with, they also became exposed to what 5FM was all about. And that is actually a safe space. You know what I mean? And one thing I take pride in is that I can confidently say I made 5FM cool to a lot of black kids.
You changed the entire game, because what's happening on 702 now, what's happening on 94.7 now, what's happening on East Coast Radio now, what's happening at all these old school traditionally would be, or used to be known as white stations.
Yeah.
That's where the trajectory has gone to.
Absolutely.
Because we are living in a predominantly black country. And you guys pioneered that with 5FM. So you are a pioneer again in another sphere.
In fact, one of the reasons I accepted the offer at 5FM was because because I believe in, don't be afraid to be the first. Don't be afraid to be a trailblazer. Don't be afraid to be the sacrificial lamb. If it fails, it's fine. But if it doesn't, what if it doesn't fail? In fact, there is a saying. A lot of people wonder, what if I fail? What if I fail? But what if you don't? Can you imagine the magic of if you do not fail? So for me, to be the first black guy to do a drive show at 5FM, for me it was a big deal. And I wanted to be that guy because I knew I could take that ball and hit it out the park. I wasn't even worried. I wasn't even scared. I didn't even doubt that I could do it. I didn't doubt I could do it. Yes, you have imposter syndrome in the back of your head because it's a traditionally white space. And as Daki, unfortunately, whether or not you grew up with white kids, the system also gets into your head. So, I mean, I went to nursery school with white kids and Indian kids and everything else. Primary school was the same. High school was the same. So now to me, your race did not determine whether you're better than me or not. It was not drummed into me by a system. But because the system is as strong as it is, between apartheid and colonialism, whether or not you grew up with white kids or not, at the back of your mind, you almost still know your place because the system reminds you of you might not belong here, or this is not your space, or you're not one of us. That still exists. So the only issue I had moving to 5 was feeling like, what if I don't belong? But then I reminded myself that one, John Langford, who was the manager, didn't call me because he was bored. He knows I kick ass. And sometimes you also need to remind yourself of who the hell you are. Sometimes you need to look in the mirror and remind yourself who the hell you are. Because that's the difference between whether you're going to pass or not at whatever it is you're doing. And I reminded myself that I'm going to go to that radio station and I'm going to kick ass. I'm going to go to that radio station and I'm going to change the numbers. I'm going to go to that radio station and I'm going to make sure the drive show is bigger than breakfast, which is what I did. In fact, I've done that every radio station I've done afternoons at. I've made sure afternoons are bigger than the morning show. That doesn't happen on radio.
I miss when you're in the morning, Tato and Tato.
Oh, yes.
Tato to Tato. Those who get the joke get it.
Ola jumps in.
I miss laugh for nothing. I think you guys were doing the morning show, Tato to Tato.
Yes.
Tato to Tato. And I was doing the afternoon show, Wildlands.
Yes.
Vista, Karas, and the crazy gang, Cover.
You guys were like the squatter camp of radio. That was like 20 of you.
crazy. You are one of the few diverse DJs that, as much as you were a house DJ,
Yeah.
but you are also a family brand on radio.
Sure.
Where the entire Kwaito community looked at you as a Kwaito ambassador somehow.
Sure.
So here you are as a house DJ, but you are so accepted in the Kwaito space, and South Africa loves you so much, sometimes we even forget you're actually from Botswana.
Sure, sure. You know what it is? I think if you build yourself and you endear yourself to people, it doesn't matter where you come from. You could come from a different planet. As long as you can endear yourself to people, people will love you. As long as people feel like they can relate to you, people will love you. Again, another thing I preach, people don't forget how you make them feel. If you make people feel good about themselves, if you make people feel good, if you make people feel like this person actually gives a damn, they'll never forget you. I mean, one of the reasons you will hardly hear me swear on my podcast is because I understand how many kids love me. Like, it still blows my mind that I go to my son's school. My son is 7. The minute I walk into his class, all his classmates come running up to me. DJ Fresh, we're a fan of you. I'm like, you're 6, you're 7. What do you mean you're my fan?
Knows you, she's 10 years old.
I'm like, you're 7. What do you mean you're a fan? Like, what do you know about Fresh House Flava? You know? Go outside and play. No, I'm kidding, man. But when you impact people's lives positively, they will not forget you, my dude. I mean, I laughed the other day. The Sunday Times, what are they called? Next Gen Awards.
Yeah.
Where South African youth, the children of South Africa, vote for their coolest brands.
Yeah.
I've won it for the last 2 years for coolest radio DJ.
I know. Congratulations. And you even won it when you were no longer on radio, remember?
No, but that's
I
what
think
I'm
it was
saying.
last year or the year before.
That's what I'm saying. I won it last year. I wasn't on radio.
It was last year, right?
I won
Yeah.
it the year before. I wasn't on radio before then. But because for a lot of kids, I've had a positive impact or influence, they're not going to forget me. And if you can get a child to be your fan, you have a fan for life.
Thank you.
You understand? That's why, like I say to you, for me, as much as I'm on the online space now, I'm in the online space, it's going to be very difficult for me to throw F-bombs and speak like I want.
Same here.
Because I understand how many kids love me.
Yeah, same here.
And I would like them not to hear me speak like that.
I always say you've got comedians like Trevor. And I've never heard Trevor Noah swear.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some people probably might claim he does swear. I've never heard him swear.
Yeah.
But he's become one of the best. For me, he's the best comedian in the world.
Yeah.
But I've never heard him swear.
Sure.
So, he doesn't have to drive a certain point by swearing. His vocabulary is so vast that he can still be at the top of his game globally without even, throwing one F-bomb.
You know what? Sometimes an F-bomb must drop. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think also the freedom to throw an F-bomb on your own platform is almost like power that you must still be responsible with. Because you have a V12, it doesn't mean you must use every cylinder. You must still know how to use your power. Because I'm a 3rd Dan black belt at karate, and I could probably kill you with my hands, does not mean I must be a violent person. So with every bit of power and privilege that you have comes a ton of responsibility. So because you have the freedom to swear, doesn't mean you should, is the point I'm making.
I don't want to finish speaking about everything because I can go on with you for 3 hours. But the last 10 minutes of the show, I'll use it to speak about property. Yourself and Euphonic got into the property space years ago. I think it was like maybe a decade or so ago. I was not aware of what you guys were getting yourselves into.
Sure. Yeah.
Only now my eyes actually have opened up that I'm only getting into property right now. Let's speak about your property interests and why did you get into property?
Honestly, well, initially property interest was thanks to Oskido. Because when I bought my first property, Fresh House Flava was starting to drop. And every time Fresh House Flava dropped, there'd be a nice check. So every time Fresh House Flava dropped, I changed cars.
yeah. Geez, we loved cars at YFM. Yo.
Oh, God. Yeah, so every
You've
time...
driven every car,
So every time Fresh House Flava would drop, car drops.
Yeah.
Until Oskido one day says to me, my man, don't waste money on cars. In fact, because Oskido had an ML.
I remember.
And one of the reasons I bought an ML is because Oskido had an ML. One day Oskido comes to my place in a Corolla.
Yeah.
It's like...
And it's been like that ever since.
I'm like, my man, No, it's like, no, my man, I'm. In fact, he wasn't even buying property. He was building. Oskido did a construction course so that any property he builds himself. Like, if you have time to do that so that you are part of the process. I mean, I remember Oskido, we do gigs. And I asked Oskido we used to do Sundays at Calabash and then Intersection.
11th Avenue, yeah.
Oskido on...
Intersection Gonja was in
Randburg. Corner
yeah.
Republic and Jan Smarts.
Yeah.
Oskido on Monday. So he'd leave the gig. I'm like, so where are you going? He's like, no, I'm doing a course. And I'd leave it. He was doing a construction course in Soweto with Papa Joe. So every Monday, Oskido would be doing this course. Jiggy, a year later, after we do gigs or whatever, Oskido, where are you going? I'm going to buy bricks. Oskido would buy bricks with each booking and just leave them there. And then he'd build a house and then he'd flip it. And I was like, Grootman is actually dangerous.
Yeah. He's actually a property mogul right now, for a lot of people who don't know.
But to tell you the honest truth, when myself and Euphonic or Temba started, we started with a smaller flat near Auckland Park.
Student accommodation.
Just down the road from Labori. But my passion for property was not burning as hot as Temba's was. So eventually I actually lost interest. And I told him that, my man, you're actually passionate about this, so go do it, fly. Now for me, it's actually not such a big passion. So I'm not going to chase that, because I'm a firm believer in life is too short to spend even a minute doing something you don't enjoy. Once you have the luxury to choose how you spend your time, be selfish with your time. If you don't enjoy something, don't do it. So like right now, I'm actually going into farming right now. So as we speak, I'm clearing 6 hectares of a 20-hectare farm that I have, because I'm starting farming. And the reason I am fine with farming is because my grandmother was a subsistence farmer, on both sides, in fact, were subsistence farmers. My dad is a cattle farmer. And I've got friends who are farmers, and we are going into a little co-op to start farming. So I'm actually turning into boer fresh.
Beautiful.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or boer farce. Yeah, boer farce, ex-farce.
Any knowledge what you guys are going to be farming?
So we have literally, like I said, we're clearing 6 hectares. We're sinking a borehole literally next week. And we're going to do soil analysis so that we see what our soil is good for. I don't want to farm just for the sake of farming.
Yeah.
But off the bat, I'm not going to share too much because Baloi also.
Yeah.
But all I can tell you, though, is I've taken a keen interest in farming as one of the things that I'm going into. But we'll also be building studios in Botswana in villages.
Nice.
For kids to use for free.
Nice.
Because when I did a tour of Bots last year, I realized how many kids don't have access to studio facilities to record. There's a lot of talent, but there's 0 facilities.
Nice.
So one of my pet projects this year is to build studios in villages that kids can use for free and record their music. And I mean, Oskido has a platform, Kwale, so there's already a platform you can use and be your own record label if you need to be. Yeah. So that's one of my big passions for this year. But property has been on the back burner. But we'll see. Maybe it will come back.
With that being said, property being in the back burner, whether you liked it or not,
what
is it that you've experienced with property, especially the earliest properties that you bought? What have they become over the years?
You know what?
Have they become a good investment?
Student accommodation needs you to it needs you to have a heart, eh? So, for instance, one of the disadvantages that we had is, for instance, they found out we owned the place. And then all of a sudden tomorrow it's Esha can't pay rent, Esh DJ Fred, Esh Mfwetu, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So one thing, in fact, one thing we learned with a property I co-owned with my, well, now ex-wife and still friend, divorce doesn't mean you must hate each other.
Blessings and love to Tabiso.
Yes. So one thing, so we had a property that we're renting out. And what we learned was if you have an agent dealing with it and you can separate yourself from the person in your property, it makes life so much easier. Because you don't have to be the bad person if they can't pay or they're running late. But one of the big challenges is always late payment. And I don't care how many times you say to a person, if you can't make the payment end of the month, please tell me so I can tell the bank that your bond payment is not coming, or so I can kherezanyana and at least pay the bank. But people will keep quiet. People will keep quiet, forgetting that they're also messing with your credit record. Because if you're a bad payer, that's a black mark on your credit record. So that was one of my big pet peeves with having tenants. That apart from the fact that some tenants are actually just nasty and dirty, in fact, they're worse than the cockroaches you're going to find in your property, is they just don't care. They don't care. Despite you nicely saying, tell me if you can't pay, so I can make sure the bank is paid somehow, they'll still keep quiet. And then they'll carry on for 2 months or for 3 months. So that's the one thing I don't miss about having properties for rent. But for instance, I had a chat with Proverb the other day. We had a meeting. I'm working on a project with Proverb. All things being equal, we'll be doing some TV work with Proverb.
Beautiful.
But watch the space. And yeah, he was talking about how one of his biggest challenges with property is exactly that. And that for him, he's finding that if you can have a corporate client, it makes life easier. So for instance, a friend of mine has flats in Bloem, near one of the varsities. So he deals directly with NSFAS. So he's on the NSFAS database, and they pay him, because you know you'll get paid for your flat. Yes, it's student accommodation. Some students will leave your flat in a mess or whatever it is. But if you can get a corporate client, it makes life easier. Some corporate clients will even pay you 6 months in advance and say, listen, here's your payment, now leave us alone. They'll just call you maybe if there's any issues that need to be sorted out. So I've found that dealing with individuals is a headache. But I've also found that if you're not going to build a portfolio that makes it worthwhile, sometimes it's not worthwhile.
Do you miss radio?
Now that we've started the podcast, no.
Are you serious? I know you lie.
No, let me tell you why. I know that I will have the same impact with the podcast that I had on radio.
Okay.
And like I said, for me, radio was a vehicle to impact people's lives.
I get you.
You know what I mean? And I know I'll be able to do it with a podcast, and I know I'll be able to possibly impact more lives more meaningfully on my terms, and still make a buck or two, God willing. So, and if you listen to my podcast, and in fact soon we'll be doing it live. It won't just be a recording on YouTube.
Yeah.
It'll be a live show.
Yeah.
And if you've listened to my radio shows, I'm slick on radio.
Yeah.
There are very few people who are slicker than me on radio.
You pay attention to detail, even the sound,
you have
production.
You have
the
to.
links where you come in. Sometimes you can even link a link of what you're saying to actually the lyrics of the song you're about to put on, the way you go to ads, the way your jingles sound. You've just been, that's why I call you the Joe Rogan of radio in South
Thanks,
Africa.
my dude. Yeah. Dude, it's paying attention is everything. We're out of time.
3 minutes, yeah. We're wrapping it up.
We can't add another 10 minutes.
I know. Okay, let's go on the decks. You probably can bless us with a young set.
No, I'll do a set. I don't mind.
Oh, plus you've got a brand new album coming, yeah.
No, I bet you sure. Actually, we can make it longer if you want.
Oh, that would be beautiful.
Who's the boss here? Guy's telling you 3 minutes, 3 minutes. My man, who are you? This is Boo.
Guys, this is my good man. This man put me on. I can't believe I'm sitting with him here. From back in the day when he made me a judge on the show.
Saying 3-3.
Gave me multiple opportunities, this guy, and I forever love you for that. And
I love you, my dude.
Man, you know? Sorry I disturbed you.
Yeah, what was the question again?
No, I was even saying for me, you're the Joe Rogan of radio in South Africa.
It goes back to what I was saying earlier on, that you need to make an effort with everything you do. Like, people take time to listen to you. People take time to come to your show. People take time to tune into your radio show or go to your concert or go to your play if you're at the market. Put time in. Like, give a damn. Put time in, make it effort, make it sound slick, make it memorable. If you're not impactful at what you do, you're not going to do it for a long time. Trust me. And if you're not impactful at what you do, those that did it before you will be more memorable than you are, even when they are not doing it. That's the power of impact. That's the power of giving so much of a damn that you're going to do it right all the time. That's why even with my podcast, some people say, I feel like I'm listening to you on radio because you want to make sure things go from one thing to another seamlessly. And that's what it should be. And you'll see, once we go live with our podcast, you'll see that. And we might even mess around and go live every day. I mean, the sky's the limit when you do it on your own terms. So we'll see. Maybe we'll go live.
The Property Talk Show is proudly brought to you by Ep2 Property Development. The name is DJ Fresh, radio legend, DJ legend on the decks, on the ones and twos, a pioneer, shifted the game, shifted the culture many times, got many firsts, got a lot of people's lives that he's changed. I'm one of those people that he contributed immensely, and for that, and on behalf of others who are not here to thank you themselves, thank you.
My man,
Thank you, bro.
Thank
Just
you so
recognizing
much.
Kids that you didn't even know that become about DJ Smooth, that become about Proverb,
Yes, sir.
that become about Euphonic, that become, you know what I mean? Like, thank you.
And you know what? I'm not done. There's a whole batch of kids I'm working on and working with this year. Watch the space. Like, guys, there's talent out there. And if just half of us that have made it take time to just put on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids, we can actually continue changing generations and changing lives. And we have a responsibility to do it. We have a responsibility to do it, especially if someone puts you on.
If there's any other day where things are bad or things are tough or, you know, your thoughts are wherever, just know that we'll forever appreciate you and we'll forever love you.
Thank you,
and
my dude.
all of the incredible work you've done to put us on trickles down all the way to people that we've put on.
Sure.
So it's all of that work. That is all of your work.
Yeah.
And as I said a little bit earlier on, that, I don't even know if actually a lot of people know that you're not from South Africa. You're from Botswana, but you came here, you made it your home. South Africa loves you, and you know the amount of love you get from this country. Just always know that we love you, and thank you.
Thank you so much. How long do we have? Are we done?
How many minutes do we have for this one? Oh, I'll continue. Let's go.
No. I actually wanted to talk about, because the reason I ended up in SA, you know, a lot of my career is not a mistake. I'll explain to you why. So just this morning on Talk Radio 702, Bongani Bingwa was talking about, are you a visualizer? Are you one of those people that visualizes something, puts it to the universe, and it happens? And manifests. There's nothing in my career that I didn't visualize. Nothing. Including moving here. The first time I came to Joburg was with my folks in 1980. I was 8 years old. And we visited my uncle. My uncle stayed in Dube. And we're staying at the Johannesburger Hotel in Joburg Park. And I remember we spent a week in Joburg. And I remember saying to my folks, I love this city. I'm going to live here one day. And they laughed. I know I sound like Nota saying when I was 4 years old, but...
We love Nota.
Shout out Nota. Shout out, my dude. But, yeah, I was 8 years old. And I said to my mother, I am going to move here. I love this city. There was something about the hustle and the bustle. There was just something that said, you want to live here. So already at 8, I knew that was going to happen by hook or crook. When I was about 10, 11, I used to watch. In fact, I laughed when I saw Will Smith reference this in his book, because he talks about South Fork Farm on Dallas and how he saw this ranch with a name and this family business. I live on a plot where you drive from the gate a bit nyana. I always say you want to live on a plot that when you look on Google Maps, the road from your gate to your house is on the map.
That's grown Grootman flex.
I remember saying to my folks, I'm going to live on a plot like this. Just seeing South Fork Ranch and just how, because the camera shot goes from the gate, and then there's like the lawns, and then there's the white picket fence. And I told them I'm going to live in a house like this. I want a plot like this one day. That's exactly what I said to my folks. I was 10, 11 years old. That's exactly where I'm staying right now. When I was 11, breakdance was a huge thing. Like, breakdance was huge. And I remember there was a movie called Breaking.
I remember Breaking.
And in Breaking, there is a scene where Ice-T is performing Reckless with a DJ called Chris That Loved Taylor. And there's a line, what is it? Once upon a time, a DJ's task was just to play records. What more could you ask? And then came remixes, scratching and cuts, which was too much for many, drove many DJs nuts. And the DJ named Love, he reigns supreme. He's the turntable wizard of the hip-hop scene. When breaking is happening, guys are loving Ice-T. I was watching Chris That Loved Taylor. I want to do what that guy's doing. I'm going to do what they... So whenever I played Reckless, we had a radio in the kitchen. Whenever I played my breaking cassette, I'd wear Chris That Loved Taylor scratching. I'd take a bottle of jam and I'd do scratching noises on the counter. Our counter had scratched because of me. I was always in trouble.
Scratch marks.
Exactly. And when I started radio, when I was 19, in 1992, the name I gave myself was the Turntable Whiz. Because Chris That Loved Taylor was the Turntable Wizard. That was one of his names. That's actually where I got the Turntable Whiz from, was from Chris That Loved Taylor. And I remember I'd always tell the auntie that one day I want to do what Chris That Loved Taylor is doing. I'm trying to show you that if you are bold enough to go after what the child in you said they're going to do, you will get there. But you need to focus, and you need to be willing to work for it. You need to be willing to work for it. If you're not willing to work for it, it's not going to happen. So my mind is so powerful that there is nothing I've said I was going to do that I didn't do from childhood, including cars I've driven, including jobs I've done. I mean, when I was 14, I used to do radio demos. When I was 14, I would just record myself talking on a tape recorder, back announcing songs. By the time I got on radio when I was 19, I got onto radio with zero training. DJ Sonic from Durban, I wonder what he wants. Sorry.
Shout out to DJ Sonic. Put him on speaker and tell him he's on the podcast.
You better what he wants.
Sure.
Yo, Sonic.
Big dog, how are you?
My man, you're live on...
Big dog, I forgot that name.
You're live on Zboo's podcast. So you're live on...
Hey, Sonic, how you doing, bro?
Oh, good, and you?
It's all love, my brother. Shout out to you for showing the big dog some love.
What do you want, my man? I'm trying to be famous here.
Oh, I also want to make you famous for more, bro, this side.
Let's go.
I'm coming to KZN this weekend. When do you land?
I land Friday midday.
Can you come to my show at 2 p.m.?
Are we co-hosting?
Do you want us to co-host?
It depends. What do you want me to do on the show, bro?
Well, it's either we're doing an interview, we're doing a mix for like 40 minutes.
I'll do a mix of my brand new album.
That's what I was thinking.
Perfect. I'll see you tomorrow.
On Friday.
Friday, yes, Friday.
Okay, I'll send you a text. I'll just need your picture so I can do artwork on my end.
Done deal.
Okay.
All right, my dude.
Guys, that's DJ Fresh. He's always been like that. Fresh will give him a call and say, man, I've got my birthday. And while you're still explaining, he's like, I'm going to be there. And he's not even charging you a single cent. Even before I was known, in the beginning when I was still starting, back in the day, Kas at Ibiza, showed up at my gig. Like not even a single cent is asking for. But what he's doing is giving you value as well.
Myself and Euphonic gave Sonic his first big gig in Durban. We're out of town, but we gave him his first big gig in Durban.
Shout outs to Sonic, man.
Yeah.
Shout outs to the DJ culture and all of you young guys that are doing it today. Big up to all of you guys for exploring opportunities globally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But anyway, back to my story. Let me just wrap it up. But the point I'm trying to make is there's nothing I've done in my career, with my career, that was a mistake.
Get you.
In fact, there's another saying that nothing great was created by mistake. Very few things that are great were created by mistake. Maybe cooked meat was a mistake because it fell in the fire when we used to eat it raw. I don't know. But nothing great was created by mistake. Everything I have achieved was probably a dream from childhood that I stuck with until it happened, until it manifested. So don't be afraid to dream. Don't be afraid to dream bigger than what everyone else thinks you're capable of. one of the reasons I had to relocate is because already at the age of 19, I realized that the Botswana market is not big enough for what my dreams are. My dreams were so huge, they were not going to happen there. They were not going to happen there. And this was happening at a time where there were no black career DJs. So I couldn't even explain to my parents why I want to do this.
Yeah,
They were like,
wouldn't make sense.
They were like, who else is doing this?
Yeah.
And I can't tell them Louis Vega or Tony Humphries because I don't know who the hell those guys are. You know what I mean? So it was important for me to pack my bags and come to Jozi. One, because I vowed I would do it when I was 8 years old, but also because I knew that the market here and the hustle and the bustle here will push me to exactly where I need to go. That is why and how I ended up here.
The Property Talk Show is proudly brought to you by Ekasi Noble Property Development. Thank you so much, DJ Fresh.
I love you, my dude.
DJ.
Yes,
I
sir.
love you. Grootman, this is a first visit. You're still going to come so many times.
No, I want to come back and discuss other things.
There's so much to talk about.
There's like, we must talk politics, we must talk life, we
Yeah.
must talk mental health.
Yeah.
You know, so whenever you need me, I'm available, my dude.
I love you. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Check out a beautiful young set of his brand new music. Tell us about the album quickly to wrap it up.
Voices of Hope 2, it was supposed to be an EP, it's now a full album. Working with a talented vocalist, Sazi Kele, a young man out of KZN. You know, we've never met with Sazi.
Okay.
We make beats, we send them to Sazi, he sends the vocal back, and then we record.
Electronic.
But we're also going to be releasing Sazi's EP
Nice.
on Big Dog Productions, so you can look out for Sazi Kele. Who else have I worked with? Worked with Mazet, worked with Shona, worked with Gouveia from Bots. Voices of Hope 2 is an incredible album. I put my heart and my soul into it, and hopefully you'll do the same.
Drops on the 14th of April.
14th of April, Voices of Hope 2.
Nice one. On the 15th of April, we've got our property seminar happening with Ekasi Noble Property Development. There's a link in the description. Click it. It'll take you there. You can purchase tickets. We'll see you soon.
Speaking of property,
Yeah.
last thing about manifestation.
Yeah.
1995, January, my dad is dropping me in Joburg. I'm now moving, I'm here to study. And he wanted to buy an Alsatian. And there was a dog breeder in North Riding, not far from where you guys want to develop.
Yeah.
I know, because I live in the area you want to develop.
Yeah.
And I remember we went to this German Shepherd breeder in North Riding, and I said to my dad, I want to live in this area. It was just plots. It's an equestrian estate.
Yeah.
There's horses. There's a dog breeder here and there. I said to my dad, January 1995, I'm going to live in this area. I live in that area.
Power of visualization.
Be careful what you wish for. It will happen. If you think you're useless, be careful. It will happen.
Konje Batini, as we close it, whatever a man says, it is.
Whether you think you're good or whether you think you're good or bad, you're right.
Mic drop. Bah! Let's get on to the ones and twos. I love you.
Love you, my dog.